you guys find this space?
Good.
Does this work for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's too small.
I'll
say
Several people will get several opinions.
So if we got another 3 people in here, could we? Like, you guys know that business better than we do.
Oh,
Yeah?
yeah, maybe we just line up side by side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stack us like cords of
We just get rid of all our chairs.
Yeah.
But we are rather limited for the space out here for this. It's better at headquarters, but
Right.
you guys know better than we do. Or better than I do, if not him.
Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Corporal Guillaume Tremblay, Public Information Officer with the Nova Scotia RCMP. I'll be your moderator for today's media availability. Bonjour et bienvenue, je suis le Caporal Guillaume Tremblay, agent d'information publique avec la GRC en Nouvelle-Écosse. Je serai votre modérateur aujourd'hui pour le point de presse. I acknowledge that we are Mi'kma'ki, the traditional and unceded ancestral territory of Mi'kmaq people. I also recognize that African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched the part of Mi'kma'ki known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years. Je reconnais que nous nous trouvons à Mi'kma'ki, le territoire ancestral traditionnel et non cédé du peuple Mi'kmaq. Je reconnais également que les Néo-Écossais d'origine africaine constituent un peuple distinct dont l'histoire, l'héritage et les contributions ont enrichi la partie de Mi'kma'ki connue sous le nom de la Nouvelle-Écosse, de plus de 400 ans. Here with me today is Superintendent Jason Popik, District Policing Officer, Southwest Nova District RCMP. He will provide an overview of the Cannabis Act Enforcement Initiative here in Southwest Nova. Project dubbed Highfield. Superintendent Popik will speak first. I will then provide his remarks in French. Then we will move to a question and answer period. Aujourd'hui, vous entendrez le surintendant Jason Popik, officier du district du sud-ouest de la Nouvelle-Écosse de la GRC, qui vous donnera un aperçu du projet Highfield, une initiative d'application de la loi sur le cannabis dans le sud-ouest de la Nouvelle-Écosse. Le surintendant Popik prendra la parole en premier. Je ferai ensuite ses remarques en français. Sir, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming out to Southwest Nova. Today I'm going to talk to you about Project Highfield. I'm going to brief you on our project, which was an investigation in 13 different illegal cannabis stores within Southwest Nova. This is a large operation for us to undertake. It commenced in October 2024. This is an excellent example of interagency cooperation. You'll see all the police forces of Southwest Nova, Kentville, Bridgewater, and Annapolis Royal cooperated in this event. When I spoke with the chiefs of the different police departments, there was concurrence that the illegal dispensaries are causing an awful lot of harm throughout Southwest Nova. Though the dispensaries in question happen to be in the RCMP area, the harmful effects of illicit drugs permeate all of our different communities. And they support us in this investigation. There are also multiple RCMP units. We had over 65 police officers on this investigation. The external agencies that we look to support, we got support from. The Service Nova Scotia Alcohol, Gaming, Fuel, and Tobacco Division. They work specifically in regards to illicit cannabis, cigarettes. And before we started the investigation, we liaised with the Public Prosecution Service of Canada. We wanted to make sure we had a good understanding of the law, understanding of the treaties, and that we were rightfully placed within our investigation so it could go to prosecution. The investigation culminated in 13 different warrants. The warrants were executed between February 4th and 13th at 13 different sites. It's important to notice that this was not an Indigenous reservation-based investigation. It was all illegal dispensaries within Southwest Nova. The counties specifically of Kings, Annapolis, Lunenburg, and Queens were where the dispensaries were located. In total, we arrested 21 people. We identified 6 different product lines. 6 different product lines is significant. If it was simply a smoke dope, a cannabis traditional marijuana operation, That's a single line. Once we start getting into complexity, when we get into multiple brands, we get into multiple different product lines, we're talking organized crime. And organized crime preys upon all sorts of different people. The 6 products that we have here, we have dried cannabis, which is traditional. We have edibles. We have liquid cannabis, which also includes vapes. There's psilocybin. Psilocybin, commonly known as magic mushrooms, hashish, and shatter. I don't have the shatter here on display. For those that don't know what shatter is, it's a very refined form of THC. The people that produce it will infuse it with butane gas to extract out and make the drug that much more potent. If you're to consider traditional marijuana at a 30% toxicity, shatter is about 90%. It's very, not harmful, but very potent drug. We also had a number of illegal cigarettes that we took because we were on premises. We weren't in an investigation for the illegal cigarettes, but when we see something that's against law, we have to seize it upon detection. And that's where the partnership with Service Nova Scotia came into play. And you'll see a number of different firearms that were seized throughout the course of the investigation. We're putting a price tag on everything that we seized at about $1.25 million. 1.25 is a very conservative estimate of what we're talking about. The investigation was about dispensaries. Dispensaries is individual sales. If you go into NSLC, you'll buy a gram of marijuana. The sizes that you're seeing here, say for cannabis edibles, 189 kilograms. That's a warehouse price. We put all 13 sites into one. So that's a warehouse price. Organized crime works within supply, production, warehousing, and then distribution to individual dealers. It's the warehouse piece I really want to draw your attention to. If I have 1.25, and I'm going to do it for easier math for myself, $1.25 million. If I say that's $1 million that we seized out of 13 sites over 2 weeks, if I times up by 26, that's $26 million that organized crime has received through these 13 different sites. And that's really why this investigation was started, because of organized crime. Organized crime is a concern for all of the chiefs of police down here. They infiltrate and have infiltrated the legal cannabis supply system. They have negative impacts within our communities, the safety of our communities, the safety of the products. As I explained about the production, if you were to go to NSLC and get edibles there, you know the factory where it was being produced was sanitary. There were standards. We don't know that when we get into an illicit factory. So you're going to have an illicit factory for the edibles. You're going to have an illicit factory for the cannabis, for the hash, for the shatter. And I don't know what's going into them. I don't know how sanitary that is. I can't tell you what's in those products. I can't tell you if it's harmful or not. I simply cannot tell you. But the exploitation of our communities is the other story here. When you look at how organized crime leverages, infiltrates, exploits opportunities to find those different individual markets, those dispensaries. It's not organized crime that's out on display. It's the dispensaries. It's people in our communities. And in this case, we have four primary indigenous reservations down here. And it's those 4 groups that are at the forefront of this, but they don't want to be there. Organized crime is much larger than that, and they're exploiting those communities. They're exploiting the treaties that are in place, not for them, but for our communities. So, in summary, we're looking at 21 people charged for 52 different offenses. We have the Cannabis Act, we have the Controlled Drug Substances Act, we have the Excise Act, we have the Criminal Code. We have possession for the purpose of trafficking, we have careless use of firearms, we have proceeds of crime with the money. I think there's approximately $97,000 worth of cash that was seized. that cash, the money that went to organized crime, was diverted away from our schools, was diverted away from our hospitals, was diverted away from mental health, because organized crime doesn't care about that. It's a significant loss to us. These seizures, I hope, are a strong message to organized crime that we're going to continue to enforce the Cannabis Act moving forward. It will become a regular act we're going to be investigating and moving towards charge on within Southwest Nova. I'm very proud of the work the team has done. We have smaller teams here, but we were able to surge together 65 people to effect this type of investigation. The individual's charge will be going to court in June, but our investigation is continuing. We will be looking at different educational components of this. A lot of people don't readily recognize the impact of organized crime within the dispensaries or what could be in these products. We're going to do a qualitative analysis of these products to find out exactly what is in them. How harmful are they? Is there stuff in there that is toxic? As I explained to Shatter is created using benzenes, using gas products. Is all of it gone? When I compare Shatter to crack, it's very similar. Cocaine is a natural product. Then you make crack, you smoke it out of a pipe. Shatter comes from marijuana, a natural product. Until you apply different adulterants to it, and you smoke it out of a very similar type pipe. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Merci, monsieur. I'll now provide Superintendent Popik's remarks in French. Je vais maintenant délivrer les remarques du surintendant en français. Bon après-midi et merci d'être ici pour en connaître davantage sur le projet Highfield, sur notre enquête en cours et sur les commerces de cannabis non autorisés dans le sud-ouest de la Nouvelle-Écosse. Entre le 4 et le 13 février, nos agents ont exécuté des mandats de perquisition dans 13 commerces de cannabis non autorisés dans le comté de Kings, Lunenburg, Annapolis et Queens. Ces commerces étaient situés sur des réserves de Premières Nations et à l'extérieur de celles-ci aussi. Lors de l'exécution des mandats de perquisition, nos agents ont arrêté 21 personnes et saisi du cannabis séché, des produits comestibles de cannabis, du cannabis liquide, du psilocybine, alors des magic mushrooms ou des champignons magiques, qui est une drogue réglementée, du hashish, du shatter, du tabac, des armes à feu et de l'argent comptant. On estime que la valeur au niveau de la rue des drogues saisies s'élève à 1,25 million de dollars. Nos équipes, à l'aide de nombreux partenaires, ont fait de l'excellent travail à enquêter puis à coordonner les efforts de l'application de la loi dans nos communautés en toute sécurité et avec un minimum de désagrément des résidents. Il s'agissait d'une vaste opération de l'application de la loi sur le cannabis. Un des points sur lesquels je veux insister aujourd'hui est que la vente de cannabis illicite pose des risques de communauté et à la société. Les groupes du crime organisé sont parmi ceux qui fournissent le cannabis illicite et ainsi profitent directement de la vente illicite de ce produit. Ils exploitent les possibilités au sein de nos communautés pour leurs propres intérêts. Il est aussi important de ne pas oublier que les produits vendus dans les points de vente illicites ne sont pas réglementés. Le consommateur n'a aucune garantie, n'a aucune idée de ce qui est écrit sur l'étiquette et si c'est vrai et correspond au produit à l'intérieur du contenant. Notre enquête et opération surnommée Projet Highfield a commencé en octobre 2024 avec l'assistance des services de police de Kenville, de Bridgewater et d'Annapolis. De multiples services additionnels et 65 membres de la GRC y ont aussi assisté. Nous avons aussi reçu l'assistance de la Division de l'alcool des jeux, des carburants et du tabac, du Service de la Nouvelle-Écosse et du Service des poursuites pénales du Canada. 21 personnes font face à 52 accusations en vertu de la loi sur le cannabis, de la loi de réglementation de certaines drogues et autres substances, de la loi sur l'assise et du code criminel, notamment des accusations de possession de cannabis dans le but d'en faire la vente, de possession de psilocybine dans le but d'en faire le trafic, d'usage négligent d'une arme à feu. Les saisies et les accusations sont importantes et découlent du projet Highfield. Ça aide à contrer les effets néfastes du crime organisé, améliore la sécurité du public et annonce que l'application de la loi sur le cannabis sera la norme dans l'avenir. Je suis fier du travail de nos équipes. En veillant à ce que nos plans soient bien conçus et exécutés, on a démontré leur engagement envers la sécurité publique. Les comparutions en cours des personnes accusées commenceront en juin et nos enquêtes se poursuivent avec d'autres arrestations et d'autres accusations sont anticipées. We'll now proceed to questions and answer period. I ask that you limit yourself to one question and one follow-up. And for the benefit of all participants, please state your name and the outlet that you represent. For questions in French, I will first translate the question in English to Superintendent Popik, who will then provide his answer in English, and I'll provide the answer in French following that. Nous allons maintenant procéder à la question et réponse, la période de questions-réponses. Nous vous demandons de vous tenir à une question et un suivi. Pour le bénéfice de tous les participants, veuillez indiquer votre nom et l'organisation que vous représentez. Les questions posées en français seront traduites en anglais et ensuite en français pour la réponse. We can start over on your left, please.
Adrian Young from Photography. Just curious if you guys are able to explain the process that you guys may have to follow when you guys enter on a First Nations community, or if there is a process. Just not sure if that's something that some people may be confused about, if that's just something you guys can do, or if there's an actual process that has to be followed in regards to the chiefs and council.
Yeah. So when we go through an investigation, we can do it overtly or covertly. We can be on uniform or we can be in plain clothes. The Criminal Code of Canada allows us to do that. We don't have to have permission to enter onto the land, no. When we go in to do a search warrant, in a more broad sense, it really depends what culture we're going into. And we follow and we brief, and we briefed in this case specific to Indigenous lands. If we're going into a mosque, we'd take precautions and sensitivities towards the Muslim faith. We're going into a Jewish temple, we'd brief that way. So prior to going in to execute the search warrant, we would not tell anyone, and that's a standard regardless of executing the search warrant. And it's operational security. If we indicate what we're going to be doing, there are different things could happen. It could put police officers at risk. Members of the public could come to be onlookers and be put at risk. Product could be stolen. Evidence could be lost. And that would be the same as for pretty much every search warrant we go to. But the cultural sensitivity really depends on where we're executing that warrant. In this case, we were very mindful of the territory we were on. In one of the searches that we went to, there was ceremonial Indigenous items there. It was identified as such. The members looked at it, they recognized it. We didn't take it because it's not evidence. The judge that authorizes us to enter tells us what we can take and what we can't take. And clearly we can't take that. We found an elder community members, and we transitioned that material over to the community.
Just a follow-up question. Feels as if a lot of the First Nations, there's a little bit of disconnect with the RCMP and their communities. Is there anything that you guys may be working on to try to kind of get that back, maybe education-wise, etc.?
So within Southwest Nova, we have tremendous relationships with the four nations that we have, the primary four nations. We have the Bear River, the Glooscap, the Acadian, Bear River, Glooscap, Acadia, and Annapolis First Nations. Each one of our detachment commanders has relationships with them and meets with them on a regular basis, very much the same way that we would with the town council. We identify what needs they have, what they're looking for, what their concerns are. So I've only been down in Southwest Nova since September 23rd, but I know from talking to the different detachment commanders that we're very well received down here, and we're going to continue to engage with them. We are their police, and they like us to be their police. When I look at the First Nations, they're really a very noble, proud, and respectful people that have very similar values to every other Canadian. They don't want drug dealers in their midst. They don't want criminality. They don't want people that are going to be using drugs coming in there and being tourists or transits through their areas. They want to live peaceful communities.
Thank you.
Ian Fairclough with the Chronicle Herald. Just further to that, I mean, obviously there's people inside protesting, but you've seized guns and mushrooms. They're saying that their treaty rights are being infringed upon by the seizure of this. What would you say to that?
The best answer to that is perspective. When we look at treaty rights, and really what we should be talking about in this instance, they'll be bringing up Treaty of 1752. Treaty of 1752, which is a peace and friendship treaty, was entered into, and it's why we're all treaty people. Both sides are a part of that. But it would hold peace and friendship. But in the Treaty of 1752, in the fourth paragraph of it, it talks about a truck house. A truck house is very similar to a trading post, and it was enshrined. But within the truck house, it was a place where the Mi'kmaq commerce could take place. But in that same paragraph, it defines the commerce. It defines skins, feathers, fowl, fish, and does say other materials that are appropriate. So I think that's really what's at odds. The two sides that came together in 1752 to agree on the terms of that treaty would not be in agreement on something they never even foresaw. You look at cannabis, it originated in Asia about 12,000 years ago. I think about 12,000 years ago in Asia. It didn't come to Canada until 1930. For someone to conceive of selling a product like that in 1752, when it didn't come to Canada until 1930, I can't see it being contained within that treaty. But the other piece of that treaty that's very important is Section 8. And it's the conflict resolution phase. And what it says is, if this is in question, then it needs to be handled within the courts. And that's what needs to happen. The Cannabis Act was brought into power back in 2018. But we really haven't got into this stage of discussion about what is right and what is not. Are they treaty rights? Are they not? Within that treaty, which is speaking specifically to the commerce of the day, the materials of the day, this is an extrapolation, in my opinion.
And sorry, I meant to ask this as part of that question, but so I'll add that and do my follow. Do you have the support of the leadership of the First Nations? Have they expressed any support for what you've done here? And are these seizures related to the ones that happened last fall?
So they're not related to the ones that happened last fall because I wasn't here. So the execution of the warrants came as a surprise to all the chiefs. And I haven't spoken with any of them. I have heard that the communities are happy that something's being done because there's far too much drugs that are running rampant within communities. But I hear that same comment from not normal, but other citizens that aren't on the reservation. I think the biggest complaint that I heard was of vehicles that weren't from the reservation traveling into the reservation and disrupting the communities there. They're small communities. Bear River has 334 people. That's on and off. Glooscap 309 people on and off, and Annapolis 304. They're small communities, so that traffic flow is probably the biggest thing that they're seeing. But I guess the better way I can answer your question, I haven't heard anyone upset about what we've done.
You're up.
What, I guess, kind of led you to these particular trading posts or dispensaries, legal dispensaries in particular?
So for the last 5 years, I was responsible for all the federal operations in Nova Scotia. That included organized crime. I know the harmful impacts of organized crime. I know how they creep into communities. I know how they really don't care what happens. I know how they have multiple business lines. We're talking human trafficking. We're talking stolen property. We're talking illegal drug importation, extortion. I arrived here on the 23rd of September, and I commenced this project on the 30th of October because it is so blatantly obvious what was happening. The communities, and I'll speak specifically to the Indigenous communities. They're being exploited. They're being exploited by a group of people who really don't care for them, but it's a means to get their product to market. It's a means to get their product to market, hiding behind a treaty that is not theirs and wasn't intended for them. That type of bullying needs to be held to account. And it just, frankly, I was aghast. I arrived in Nova Scotia from Alberta in 2016. I was, at that point, responsible for operations in Halifax. When I arrived in 2016, I saw Tasty Buds, which was selling marijuana. And we didn't have dispensaries like that other places where I'd been. So I entered into a similar investigation back then because it's organized crime. And organized crime needs to be stood up to and needs to be stamped out.
We can come back if you want for a follow-up question, yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Blair.
I realize this is targeted to Southwest Nova, but the most highly profile marijuana dispensaries are the ones that line the 102 just outside Truro. Do you know if there's any similar action contemplated against them?
I wouldn't tell you if I did. Because when I go back to this question over here, operational security is essential. And if I were to provide information like that, it could negatively impact that area. If I were to provide information like that, it could create tension within a community where tension doesn't need to be raised. So what I can talk about is what's happening in Southwest Nova. I can tell you the criminal operations officer and the commanding officer are supportive of this action, that we need to start having this type of action taking place, because there are far too many dispensaries, not just in Nova Scotia, within Atlantic Canada. And if I go back to what I'll estimate from a warehouse or a wholesale sales piece of $26 million, that's just from the top of us. So how much money is being diverted out of our economy? How much tax dollars is being diverted away from the NSLC or from good programs that we could have, right? So, but really, I don't know what the planning or the other operations are up there. What I will tell you, if they're doing it, I'll certainly support them.
And just to be clear, when you talk about organized crime, because there's individuals on the sidewalk outside this building who are protesting because they say their livelihood has been infringed by these raids, but they're not the people you say are they are the retailers. Are you suggesting that they are directly involved in organized crime, or merely the pointy end of the stick?
I would say they're the pointy end of the stick. They're the face of what's happening here, and it's why I don't like that to be the story. When I look at organized crime, there is a production scale happening in this country. It's being diverted into an underground market, an illegal market. But then it's being diverted into multiple factories. It's creating multiple things. The capital alone to create the different factories, because we have 5 different processes that go on here. The capital, the HR, the complexity, the transportation to the factories, the transportation from the factories to a warehouse, the transportation from the warehouse to the individual dispensaries. I believe the dispensary owners are being exploited. I believe a conversation between governments could solve this issue. There are some tribal councils that would like to have NSLC outlets. I think that'd be a tremendous opportunity. This whole issue goes away if it was all legally acquired. How do they get to that? But from where I stand, our government, our due process works in 4 different branches. Our executive branch, the Government of Canada, creates the laws. Then we have a tripartite legal system. Police do an investigation. We pass it off to the prosecution that will litigate it. Enforcement actually comes with the courts. The courts will define and articulate what is right, what is wrong. They will define whether or not there is a legal right or livelihood. I have a hard time with the Peace and Friendship Treaty. In any intent on any person back in 1752 to say, we want you to sell products that could be harmful to our friendship and our communities. I think that's something that the courts need to decide.
Go
Hi.
over APTN.
Yeah, hi, Angel, APTN News. What Blair was talking about is he's right, you know, people are selling it and to make an income and everything, and they might set up shop again. So if they're at the tip of the organized crime, so you say the organized crime is the manufacturers, are you going after the manufacturers? Some say, why are you going after the little guy and not the top dog?
So at my level of investigation, so when I was in federal policing, I was going after importers. I was going after international crime. Now I'm at public safety level. My ceiling is so high. The best place for that organized crime to be addressed would be in a mid-level organized crime team that doesn't exist in this province. The commanding officer is working with the Department of Justice to develop just that, because we have a gap. Who is hitting that group of people? Because you'll get a lot more impact if you do. The dispensaries, very different. The illegal dispensary is very different from NSLC. When you go to NSLC, you won't see any firearms. You'll know what's in the product, and no kids are coming through the door. That regulation piece is so important. So will I continue to look at the dispensaries? I certainly will. We've gone after charges in regards to the Federal Act. That's why the federal Crown Prosecutor is prosecuting these cases. In 2018, the province put a different act in place for the Provincial Act. It gives the police the powers to enter into, search, seize, and issue a summary offense at $10,000 a pop. That is another level that we can go after to address the dispensaries. But they need to continue to be addressed. If we continue to have this type of harm, though marijuana has only been legal for 7 years, we don't have enough data to know how harmful it is. If you look at the number of people that are becoming schizophrenic, and it's marijuana-induced schizophrenia, but we don't have the data because it's come on us so fast. And we need to measure that. We need to ensure that we're helping people not get into that situation. If I stop looking at the dispensaries, how's that any different than stopping doing traffic enforcement? We have a lot of people dying on the highway because of speed and different traffic infractions. I have to keep my eye on that as well.
I have a question and a half. So the guns were seized from the dispensaries. Obviously, how many is there?
There's 17 long guns, 1 pistol.
Okay. Some people are asking about organized crime, and they say, you know, we're just a family operating a shop, and why aren't the police raiding the crack houses that are on reserves? You know, outsiders coming in and setting up shop with crack, meth, heroin in houses, and that's very buried in the community, right? That's what they're complaining about. Like, why are you going not after that?
So in my AOR, so my area of responsibility, the communities I have tend to be tight-knit and very very peaceful communities that don't have that present issue. However, when I go back to your question, recently up in Shubenacadie. There was a search that was done exactly like that, and they went after opioids. They went after different harmful drugs, right? So when the opportunity arises, we're definitely going to go after those drugs because they cause harm as well. The scope of harm here is a lot more than the scope of harm there, just because of the number of products and then the number of people that are using it. When we start looking at, I'll say heroin, your heroin user group or your opioid user group is far smaller than your cannabis user group. The number of people driving intoxicated from heroin or opioids is very different from the number of people driving intoxicated from any of these products. So we need to look at it both.
Well, Donald Trump is concerned about that now.
Over to global.
Yeah, so Neil with Global News. Since the seizures, have you or your officers received any civilian complaints over the raids or seizures? Sorry.
No, I do know anecdotally from many officers that there are citizens in the community that are happy it happened. But it isn't widely known. We went in, we conducted the investigation, then we conducted the searches over 2 weeks. It really isn't widely known. It'll certainly be more widely known once you get your stories out.
And then we received a press release from the Micmac Rights Association earlier this morning about allegations of officers where they, for example, almost breaking a man's arm, 3 officers tackling violently, arresting a pregnant woman. Another one, a 15-year-old was using the washroom, they seized his phone and forced him to wipe himself in front of the officers. Do you have any reaction to those allegations?
So what is very fortuitous for the RCMP is when we went into every one of the searches, all of our members were wearing body cams. So we have the truth in video that we can look at and we can address. There's no one that went to the hospital as a result of this investigation. There are no complaints that came into us. There's no CERT referrals from abusive force. We interviewed everyone we talked to, and they were very respectful. We asked them how they're treated, and there were no complaints. But and I do know a couple of those matters that you bring up. But the body cam footage tells a very different story, and that's something that is going to be very important for the RCMP going forward, because lots of times we do get into that. You said this, you said that. This says this. But I want to also add, many times the people that bring up allegations are not lying. When the police execute a warrant, people are in a state of stress. So your perspective at that point, your memory at that point, is very different than if I walked into a coffee shop in uniform.
Okay, so just to clarify, are you saying that these allegations are false, or we'll be looking at the body cam footage to confirm whether or not these allegations have happened?
I have not received any complaints in regards to what you've said. My staff sergeant that led this investigation has reviewed that information, and there's nothing to start an investigation. I guess I'll go to perspective again. There was an allegation that we took a piggy bank in our raids. All that money came out of a safe. The piggy bank is what someone put forward that we took. The piggy bank is conventional safe. Right? It's not a porcelain item. We didn't take a child's piggy bank. It's a safe with a punch code into it. But if someone refers to it as a piggy bank, okay, I'm not saying it's not. We need to open it up. Once we get into it, we'll determine, is there a lot of cash or is there not? If there's not, we'll return it. We do get into perceptual issues a number of times. People don't like it when you tell them they can't do something they want to do.
last follow-up questions? We only had one question earlier.
I'll grab it. I believe you said there were 17 weapons seized, there were 13 seizures. Any comment what the purpose of those weapons were, whether they were loaded when they were seized, what purpose they had in those dispensaries?
That I couldn't tell you. Some of the dispensaries were people's residences. We went to one dispensary that had a safe, and in that safe were a number of firearms that were lawfully secured. We left them. There's no crime there. These were not lawfully secured. As far as why someone had it, what intent they have for a pistol versus a long rifle, I don't know.
Is there a nice deal you stealing?
Nope, we're good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Merci beaucoup.